Welcome to the Fixture, an all-new look at the world of football. And when I say football, I mean internationally as well. So all your favourite teams, nothing is off the table here. As the name suggests, each episode we're going to be looking at a standout fixture of the weekend to whet your appetite. So drain your pints, finish your pies, and let's blow the whistle for this weekend's edition of an all-new The Fixture. With me today is co-hosting is a man who knows how to tread those Premier League boards, repping Watford, Stoke, Burnley and Brighton, and finding the back of the net on an alarming regularity. Welcome to Islington's finest, Gifton Noel Williams. How are you, Giff?
Morning, Pete. How are you doing? I'm so good. I'm so excited about what's happening this weekend. The football that's happened last week, the football that's happened this week, Champions League midweek. Football just been going on all week. It's been amazing.
And it's funny, isn't it? I think we've all struggled a little with, and we have to pay respect because all games are important. But for the real domestic football fan, the international breaks come and we all go, but it is important. But now we're on a fresh run, Giff, all the way through until the new year. So we've got our Premier League, our beloved Premier League fixtures. And across the world to look at also. But before we get stuck in and reveal this week's special The Fixture game, I wanted your thoughts so far on what's been a quite a refreshing Premier League. It's all changed at the top. Liverpool are looking great. Arsenal are Arsenal again. They look formidable. But Man City, let's talk about that. What's gone wrong there, mate?
Man City go for a blip. They always go for a blip. Every season, there's a time when we're doubting them. Every single season, there's a time when they slack off a little bit, or they lose a few games, or something happens and they're not their normal self. And I think that's what they're going through. If I'm honest, they've had a lot of injuries. Pep's gonna have to change his style a little bit because the players that he had in the team before, he can't play with them the same style. So he's got to change the style a little bit more protection in midfield. But I think Man City will come back. I think they will bounce back. I've seen Man City for so many years go on 10-game, 15-game runs when they win. So, I'm not a betting man, but if I was a betting man, I wouldn't bet against Man City. So I do believe they will come good.
I don't disagree. But when we do say, I just want to sort of throw another spanner in the works. But yeah, Man City, they have blips, but Giff, I have to say this blip. I mean, five lost. It's unheard of, isn't it? And what I am going to say is I think Pep, I was expecting him to blow a gasket and, because he's particularly difficult with the media sometimes, but he's been brilliant. He's just very scratching his head saying he's at a loss as well. I suppose when you lose your Ballon d'Or winner in the middle, the best player in the world, it's gonna hurt you, isn't it?
And you think about it, you think about the players they've lost. They've lost the Ballon d'Or winner. They've also lost their main talisman. No matter how much you talk about Haaland is great and we love him. Foden is great and we love him. And all the other good players that go around them. But De Bruyne is that gel. He's that glue that brings it all together. If it was mid-season and De Bruyne has got them going, I think Foden could have stepped in and deputized for a few games. But to start the season without your main man and to have the main bulk of the season without your main man, I just don't think they've got into the swing of things. But, Pep's a legend, and I think if he had hair like mine, I think he would have pulled it all out by now.
We all wish we had hair like yours.
I think he would have pulled it out by now, I think he's wondering what's going on, my good players, the players that can defend are not defending, the players who can score are not scoring. But these are things that happen. And I genuinely know that Man City will be there or thereabouts come May, come the end of the season. They might not win it, but they'll be there or thereabouts because 9 points, people get too carried away with 9 points. At the moment, 9 points is just you lose 2 and you draw a couple, and then the points have gone. So so people are saying 9 points, but anyone can lose 2. We're going to go through the fixtures later in a little bit, but Liverpool could lose this weekend, and all of a sudden it's 6 points, and everyone's saying, it's back on, and they're rocking, and the pressure's getting to them. So, in this Premier League, anyone can beat anyone, and that's the beauty. That's why I can't wait for us to get to these fixtures because this week's fixtures are so exciting.
Ain't that the truth? Listen, we're gonna kick off. We've got a very special guest joining us as well, an absolute legend of the wing, who's going to comment on our chosen game. But our chosen, the fixture this weekend, it's a huge game. Arsenal and West Ham. I mean, West Ham host it. It's going to be one of those Saturday night games down in the East End. It's going to be fantastic. I've got to say though, just having a look at it, they faced each other numerous times. And for the stats amongst us, the stat fans, Arsenal have been dominant. They've won 34 out of 64. West Ham have secured 15 victories and 15 matches have been drawn. I'm fascinated to know this. I'm a fan, but you're a player. You played at the highest level, and I always try and get inside the heads of the players because they don't say it on the telly. They don't let us know. But given Arsenal's historical dominance in this fixture, do you think it affects the players' mentality knowing that record that that they've got the sort of the green eye over West? Do players take any notice of that, or is it just game by game?
I think it's game by game. I think if you look at the big record with how many games they've played, no one really cares about that anymore. Maybe the fans look into that a little bit more in the stats, because most of the players that are playing now, they wasn't around for these games. So what the players might remember is the last maybe 2-3 years. The ones that have been around the Premier League, they might remember we played Arsenal last year, they done us. We played them the year before, they done us. So that could be a little memory in their head. But in general, it's game by game. And I think there's a thing that every professional football has called an ego. Right, and everyone has it. It's part of being a professional. No matter whether you're a footballer, any kind of sportsman, any kind of professional, you need a bit of an ego. You need to believe that you are good. You need to believe you're the best. You have to believe you're going to win. So I believe that no matter what the history is between the two teams, the West Ham players will be going out, especially after Monday night away at Newcastle.
Yeah, I didn't want to mention that, but we're going to have to in a minute as well, because our guest just arrived in the studio and he's going to be jumping up and down. But you're right, it goes back to any team can beat any team, can't it?
Yes, it can. And if Arsenal, the thing is that if Arsenal at their best, then you would say it will be an Arsenal win, 100%. I could guarantee that if Arsenal at their best, if they play in the way they've been playing of the last two games, stringing things together, I think it will be a 3-1, a 4-4-2 kind of game against West Ham. But if Arsenal slack off and they're 10% off, like they've realised earlier in the season, West Ham can turn them over. Because West Ham they're not a bad team. They're a very good team with some very special players in it. But I think if Arsenal get at them, I think Arsenal will have too much for them.
Okay, well, it's time to welcome our guest, because this man has done it at West Ham. He's our agent down in the East End. He's Danny Dyer's bodyguard, amongst other things. But more so, it's West Ham legend and England legend, Matt Jarvis. Matt, on cue, how are you, mate?
Good, thank you. I think he'll be my bodyguard rather than me being. I don't think I'll be able to put away anyone if they're coming for him.
Listen, I've got to say, let's talk about that. Danny made a great video at the start welcoming the new gaffer. Do you think he's pressured by that video? I haven't seen Danny because it's quite a heartfelt video, isn't it? About East End passion and West Ham and the bubbles and all of that. It was a brilliant piece of content.
I think when he actually meets him in person, I think he would had a little question mark in the back of his mind, going, "Not sure how to take this guy."
Well, listen, Matt. It's brilliant to have you. I was just saying with Giff, and he's made the valid point that on their day, we've seen it. Bournemouth have beaten Arsenal. West Ham came and had a really deserved victory at St James's Park. On their day, anyone could beat anyone, which is why it makes our league the greatest league in the world. But just what boost was that for West Ham? Because there was the knives were out, weren't they, before that game?
Absolutely. I don't want to keep bringing up the Newcastle game, but it was sort of it was a bit of a surprise. I think to most. I think as everyone's sort of reporting that he was under a bit of pressure to go to Newcastle, who are playing well, and the teams that's gelling, that they're picking up some good results. To go there and play the way that they did, and to win the game, in the end comfortably. was a huge step for them. I think Jared Bowen said it perfectly before the game when everyone was, talking a bit about, what's, what it's all about to be West Ham. Why are they not performing? And he just come out and said, it's, this is us. This is we need to be on it. Our performance needs to be there. The work hard, commitment. That's what it takes to be a West Ham player. And to be fair to them all, they were exactly what he said. And after the game, he spoke about, this is what it means to me. I'm the captain. I go out and I lead by example, and he did just that. And the rest of the team were fantastic that day. That's just the annoyance, I suppose, for the West Ham fans is, why is it taken so long for this to click? And then is it just a one-off performance? That they've got such a good squad of players now. They really do. I think they've had the best transfer window they've ever had with the players that they've brought in. It's at the moment, it hasn't sort of clicked together, whether that's system, whether that's tactics, whether that's, just players not gelling quite well as they have at previous clubs, injuries maybe. But the biggest thing is now it's worked and they can see that they can all play together. They've got that work ethic, that commitment, and now it's just tweaking. I think for me, when I've noticed about Lopetegui is his defensive, trying to press in different areas. You see Wan-Bissaka, who's for me the best defensive right back in the league.
Agreed.
He's pressing and he's in the number 10 position. He's chasing all up the pitch, and there's such a big gap in the right back because they counter, and he's way out of position. I just look at it and I just think, is that what they are trying to do? Is that how they're trying to press? But then he's left his position, and they just seem to keep getting in down the flanks. And it's both sides. It's not just Wan-Bissaka. So for me, he is so good in that position that why doesn't he stay there? And he can, he's good going forward. I think there's a lot of criticism for him going forward, but he's good. I think that he's a little bit in the sense of like Antonio. You don't quite know what he's going to do, but he's certainly effective. And Antonio, when he plays in that position up top and he makes it his own, he's fantastic for the team.
I wanted to come to Gif on that because speaking of Antonio, a position that you know very well, Gif, and a similar sort of ideal that when you played. I mean, when you look at him, the commentator made a great point. He said, they signed these forwards. Then Antonio comes on. Antonio's back in the team. They signed this 30 million forward. They come back to Antonio. He's about 40 odd now. But Gif, at the end of the day, what a great. I mean, he was outstanding at St James's Park. He covered every piece of grass. Is he a traditional old centre forward in your eyes?
Yeah, he's a throwback, ain't he? He's a throwback centre forward. He does all the grinding. He does all the hard work. I feel the problem with Antonio is that I don't think he can sustain it. And I don't know if we talk about age, we talk about fitness, you talk about the way he plays, but he never can sustain it for a long period of time. And I think that's why West Ham have always gone out and bought strikers. But if you look at Mikel Antonio over 5 games, he's probably as good as any other striker in the league. But then maybe the 6th game, the 7th game, the 8th game, he may taper off a little bit. Whether that's because of fitness, because of I really don't know. I've never actually spoken to him to find out why that happens. But with Antonio, he always has little bursts where he comes in. He does really well, then he tapers off a little bit. And I think that's the reason why they're always buying new strikers. But, he represents West Ham. I believe that, what Matt said earlier about Jared Bowen and his comments about working hard. And that's how I think that he can beat Arsenal. I genuinely think if Arsenal are 10% off and West Ham really, really give it a go, they can beat anyone in the league. But I think that West Ham this year, they've gone from the David Moyes, where they're saying, well, we're hard working, we're very defensive, and we nick points, to we're with Locatelli now, and we're going to play expansive. We're going to be chilled. We're going to have they had a little bit of strut about them. When I don't think West Ham are good enough to play with a strut. I think West Ham have to be arms rolled up, sleeves rolled up. We're going to outwork the other team, and then maybe the last 10 minutes we could play with a strut if we're winning the game. So I think they kind of lost their identity a little bit. I think, and I think that they're finding it back now. Watching them recently, it's like they're finding their identity. And like what Jared Bowen said was amazing, because that's what it's about. They found their identity. We're about working hard, grinding out results, outworking the other team. Because you know what? The West Ham fans, that's what they want. I know quite a lot of West Ham fans, and all they really want, most of the guys I know, They're hard-working guys. They've either got businesses, or they work in construction, or they're doing something that is hard labor. And they spend all their time thinking about West Ham. They spend all their money on West Ham. And all they want is to see a bunch of lads do what they're doing every single day. And that's grafting and grinding, you know. And I think as long as they do that, I think that the fans will make them win a lot of games, because they will suck the ball in the net. You know, sometimes you watch West Ham in the last 20 minutes, they're at home, they're so dangerous because the fans get behind them. When the fans see what they want to see, they really get behind them. So, you know, I think West Ham are a really team to be worried about, because they've got individuals. Kudos is a very special player. You've got Bowen, who's a special player. Paquetá can play in any team in the league. You know, so you've got all these really good players. It's just about finding the right mesh for them and meshing them together.
I've got to say, kudos to the West Ham fans, by the way. There was about 3,500 there up on a Monday night in the Toon. I know a lot of them had gone up for a weekend. Apparently, it's a decent night out in the Toon, but I mean, that's, you know, just the gift saying that about the fans.
I heard that somewhere.
They'll be up for this Saturday night under the floodlights, Jobby Matt, won't they? Especially after that result.
100%. You know, that result changes things a lot for everyone, not just the fans. It's the players, it's the staff. It's everyone needed that boost. So, you know, to then be at home against Arsenal, you know, under the lights, on the telly, fantastic.
Magic.
You know, that's
Magic.
That's as players, that's where you want to be. That's what you want to do. So the fans will be well up for it as well. You know, I think that's, you've hit the nail on the head, Gifton, about, you know, the fans just want to see players giving their all for the shirt. So if they go out and do that like they did against Newcastle and they win, fantastic. If they lose and they're still doing that, the fans will still be happy. So it's a huge, huge game, but especially for Lopetegui as well.
Absolutely. Listen, before we let you go, Matt, I'm going to ask you for a prediction, but before we do that, I just wanted to say to you, Arsenal, since the international break, they've won their last two against Forest and Sporting CP. Those victories have steadied the Gunners' ship, but let's just say their form was mixed before the break. So it's fair to say they haven't been great away from home. So on that note, how do you see the game panning out, and what you fancy for a scoreline?
Yeah, I mean, I say it every time at a West Ham game. I say every time, you know, they need to start fast. They need to start on the front foot. They need to press. They need to be right up for it, because one, it gets the fans up for it. Two, that's how West Ham play. I think when they're at their best, that's how they play. But they've not always done that, and they can have a slow, sluggish start, if they get themselves behind quite early, especially against an Arsenal team, it could be difficult. But so my hope is that they will have a really good start. They'll be flying from the previous result. The fans will be up for it, and I think as long as I think the longer the game stays like 0-0 or any score that it's a draw, I think the longer it gets, I think the more that West Ham will come into it. I think if Arsenal score the first and they get a second, I think it's going to be a real long day for West Ham. But I think if they can get their noses in front, I think you know, minimum for West Ham, I think it would be a draw. So on that note, I will go with I was going to say a 1-1 draw, but I think there'll be more goals than that. So I'm either going to go for a 2-2 or a 3-2 West Ham.
Okay, well, listen.
Matt has to say that. If you don't say it, the West Ham fans were having him.
He's bang on, because I'll tell you this: they're goal rich in this fixture. So Arsenal have got an average of 1.77 goals per game, and West Ham themselves have got 1.22. So there's no way this is goalless, says he. Brilliant. I'm looking for. Are you going to be there, Matt?
I am indeed. Yeah. Gifton, you can't be saying, well,
brilliant.
But yes, I will be there. I will be looking forward to it.
Gift, we're going to do our predictions in a moment. But while we've still got Matt, give him your West Ham Arsenal prediction.
Oh, it's going to be 3-1 Arsenal, 3-1 Arsenal, or 4-2 Arsenal. I think we'll win by 2 goals.
Okay, well, there's goals in it. I have to say on that. I have to say before I let you go, Matt, it was a fantastic performance, and kudos to the West Ham gaffer because he got it right. By the way, he did. Yeah. He literally studied Newcastle and he did everything right. And for me, West Ham were never in any danger, even in that second half. They looked comfortable and they played that game. They played Newcastle like a fiddle. A very, very handsome victory. So fair play, and let's hope they can do it again. Ladies and gents of the fixture, the one and only Matt Jarvis. Matt, thanks for your time.
Brilliant. Thank you.
See you later, Matt.
See you later.
Take it easy, mate.
Brilliant stuff, isn't it? Great to hear from Matt, a real West Ham legend as well.
A real legend, top man, very good player as well.
Top man. Often see him. He does a lot of work down at West Ham, and I think like an ambassadorial role, and it's always been in his heart. And again, I remember seeing Matt play back in the day for Wolves. Just you were talking about old school before there when we were talking about Antonio, old school winger as well. Matt Jarvis, yes. Wasn't he so fast?
Get the ball out of his feet, get in the box. Yep, get to the byline.
Absolutely, yep. a dream for boys like you. You do the easy bit. Okay, listen, we're coming up to our favourite time. We're going to be doing our first round of predictions and looking at the pick of the rest of the games. We've picked out our favourites, Giff. We're going to start with back to London, and it's an interesting game, and I haven't picked it because I'm a Geordie, but I'm interested to see the response from the Toon. Yes. They go to Crystal Palace, who you would have thought, a few weeks back, you would have said this was a given, probably an away win. But Palace they've looked decent in recent times, haven't they? So it's going to be an interesting game, this one.
Palace is a dangerous team. They're another team like West Ham. On their day, they can beat anyone. They genuinely can beat anyone. They've given Liverpool a hard time beginning the season. They've given teams hard times, but something's just not clicking with them at the moment. I know they've lost a couple players, but something's just not clicking with Crystal Palace this season so far. And but when they do make it click, they're dangerous. So you can't sleep on them. You can't really think, oh, it's an easy 3 points. You're going down to Selhurst Park. It's going to be a good old battle up.
Giff, I'll tell you something from the northeast of England, which we say is Toon fans. We've said it for years. My dad said it. My best mate says it. We all say it. It's in James's Park. If there's a player or a team that have had a bad spell, or he hasn't scored for 100 games, just line up the Toon up. And as I say that, I'm just reading now on our scroll here. Eze's back. He's been injured for a million years. Yes. He's back at the weekend as well. So, I don't know. It's going to be interesting to see how Newcastle react to that home defeat because, again, probably a little surprise given that Eddie Howe's instilled something that I was talking about only last week. That Newcastle in the past, the teams in the past, if they go one down, they'll get beat 2 or 3. But Newcastle have this new ability to fight back. Yes. They even like Notts Forest, they demonstrated it. They dug in against Arsenal. But I think it's a big test of their character at the weekend going to Palace after that result.
Yeah, 100%. We're going to London. When you're from up north as well, coming down to London, you've got the travelling, you've got a less day because they played on Monday night. So there's a lot of things that could really turn them off and make them think, I don't really fancy it. And I think it's going to be a real test of character. You've got good players. Player-wise, if you talk player for player, you should win the game. But it's just whether you're up for it and whether your togetherness is enough to win the game. Because you guys are a mixed bag this season. You're up there still.
Totally.
Because you're one game off it. You're one game off it of fifth place. So you're not that far off. But I just don't think that Newcastle have been at their best consistently enough this season.
Interesting as well. Before I ask you for a score, I don't think he knows his best team. I look at he's trying to placate. He's got 2 fantastic wingers in Gordon and Harvey Barnes. Yes. You can't play. They both want the same position. Now, more interestingly, that I heard this week from Newcastle, my sources up there tell me that Bruno Guimaraes and Tonali can't play in the same team unless they change positions. So Eddie's got a little bit of work to do because you can't have the likes of Tonali and Bruno not in the team. They're our elite players, aren't they?
I was thinking about this the other day because I was thinking about Longstaff. And I was thinking that I love Longstaff as a Newcastle player. He's not the most silkiest, he's not the most smooth, but what he does things like Joe Linton. He does things that you don't really notice, you know. And I thought that when you have Joe Linton in there, you have I just said his name. I can't remember his name. But his name's been on my head. No,
Longstaff.
Longstaff. Sorry. So you got Joe Linton in there. You got Longstaff in there with either Tonali or Bruno. I think that is the best. That is the best combination, because then you've got legs and you've got quality. When I notice when Tonali and Bruno both play, it's almost they both want the other person to do that job for them. You know, and I think they both need a Joe Linton and they both need a Longstaff to do the other bit of work for them. You know, and that's going to be very interesting for old Eddie Howe, because they're quality players. But I don't think he's going to change his formation.
No, it doesn't look like it. And then you throw Joe Willock in there, the old Arsenal boy as well, he's got bags of energy, Joe. Again, he needs to run because he can't seem to stay fit. Go on, then give us your best.
You know what, I think it depends. Now I believe I look at Harvey Barnes and I look at Gordon, and I think to myself, they are, as you said, two quality players. I don't think Harvey Barnes can play on the right, but I think he can play on the left. Obviously, he plays on the left, but I think Gordon can play on the right. So what's going to be interesting is down the line is whether he sacrifices and puts Gordon on the right hand side and plays both of them. Because I think he done that against Wolves away, and when Barnes come inside and cut in and scored that excellent goal in the top corner, and I think they looked good then. And then I think the week after I saw Joe Linton playing wide and not Barnes. So I don't think Eddie knows right now what is his best combination. I think Joe Linton is a big one as well, because where does Eddie play him at the moment? Is he one of the best? Not everyone's fit. Is he one of your best midfielders, number 8s? Is he one of your best wingers? What is Joe Linton at the moment? Where before, for the last couple of seasons, he's been your best number 8 and one of your best midfielders.
He's first on my team sheet, Gift, purely for the fact that he's a ball winner. But you're right. I think what he does is it's a sort of a mystery role. So he can't play in the center of midfield. So they tend to put him in a channel, and he's really good there. So I think what he was trying to do was play this new false business where he starts up on the wing, but he will drop back into that midfield role. But for me, he has to start. So with that in mind, and with Palace, who I do like their gaffer, I do like their coach. Yes. How do you see that? How do you see it panning out?
2-1 Newcastle. That's what I say. Yeah.
Okay, we'll take that. We'll take that. And another interesting game of a team that are finding their feet against a team that maybe they've got a lot on their plate with competitions is Chelsea Villa. What a game that's shaping up to be.
Yes, that would be amazing. That would be amazing. You know, I talked to my brother yesterday about Chelsea, and I was saying they are my surprise of the season. Not because of the ability of the team.
Yeah.
If you look at the quality of the team, they're stacked. But actually, the new manager putting them together and bringing everyone together and making them play good football, and they're surprising me. They've been really surprised. So I'm saying Chelsea for this one. I know Villa are a good team, and Emery's got them playing really well. But I just think Chelsea at the moment, you can't bet against them. You know,
no.
I just think the way they're playing, and they've got players who are feeling themselves, like Madueke. He's feeling really good about himself. You've got Cole Palmer, who's probably one of the best players in the Premier League at the moment. You know, and Jackson scoring goals. You know, so they're really, really feeling it. So I personally think that'll be a Chelsea win. I'll go Chelsea 3-1.
Yeah, I'm on that. I think I'm on that bike as well. Just touching on Villa, though, for me, looking at Villa, it's sort of reminiscent of where Newcastle were after they qualified for the Champions League. Not a big enough squad, games coming thick and fast, couple of injuries, goals not going in. So I think Villa will still be up and around the European places, but it's a struggle, isn't it, when you've qualified for that Champions League?
100%. I think when you look at the top teams, I know that Man City are struggling right now and some other teams are struggling with injuries, but most of the top teams have 2 players in each position of good quality. You know, if you go through the squads, you know, they've got 2 good wingers, 2 good central holding midfielders. So then they can rotate. So they can put one in during the week and one in on the weekend. But when you look at Aston Villa's squad, they don't have that. They don't have that second player for every position. They have that second player for some positions. But if Ollie Watkins is injured, you're asking Duran to step in. Now, Duran can step in, but we all know Duran he's not ready yet when you're talking about consistently week in, week out. You've got Morgan Rogers, you've got other players like that. But when they're not playing, who's coming in for them, you know? And that is, I think, where Aston Villa go wrong, because they're having to play the same players during the week, same players at the weekend, and it's 90 minutes. And you can tell sometimes with Aston Villa that their legs don't look 100% and they're being outworked by other clubs. You know, but I think that's only down to their squad. So I see them as a European qualifying team this season, but I don't think they'll qualify for the Champions League this season.
No, it's going to be a tough ask, as you say, especially with Chelsea back in the mix. They look like a new team.
Yes.
Okay, Man United Everton. That's a good old fashioned fixture, that one, isn't it? You know, when you look at the 80s and think about it, old Man United strips and Everton strips. It's a big game for both. I mean, obviously, new manager in there for Man United, which is quite rightly had the world's media and everyone looking at it. Funnily enough, Man United have looked all right since old Ten Hag's gone.
Yes. Yeah, you know what? I just think the problem with Ten Hag is that he wasn't a people's person. And I think he's dealing with top players. I think tactically, I don't think you could question him, if I'm honest with you. I think he's he's actually a tactical genius, you know, from what I've heard and people that have been around him and people I spoke to. But it's just the personal part of it. You know, he didn't really connect with the players. And I just believe that if you don't connect with the players, especially these top level players, they won't run through walls for you. You know, and I think that Ruud went in there. I don't think Ruud done anything spectacular. I don't think he changed any tactics. I don't think he done anything great. I think all he just done is put his arm around a few players and told them that he loved them, and told them that he loved them and he depends on them. And they started to run through walls for Ruud, you know. So I believe that this manager, he's got a very good squad to work with. But you know what? There's something about this week where I fancy Everton. You know,
Really?
Yeah, I fancy Everton. There's something, I don't know if it's something in the water or what, but I'm really fancying Everton, you know. And maybe I'm being a bit of a hater because I don't really want Man United to win. Maybe that's what it is. but I do fancy Everton. I think Everton will come through. I think Daesh will have a plan for him, and I think Daesh will surprise him.
He's your party spoiler, isn't he? So you're in with a good shout there, because he'll have them set up. Do you know what? They're an awful team to play against. They niggle, they foul, but do you know what? I don't disagree. I think I can see them getting a result as well. Just by the odd goal?
Yeah, it could be the odd goal. They might even get a draw. You know, it might even be a draw or the odd goal. But I don't think any team will run away with it. I think it'll be very tight. Because I genuinely think that when the new managers come to the Premier League, I think it surprises them a little bit, you know, because I think if they're playing Man City or they're playing Liverpool or they're playing Chelsea, they know these teams. You know, they've watched these teams on television. They know the players. They know everyone. When they play against the lower teams, I think they're actually quite surprised with the quality. Because I think most managers that come from abroad, in their own country, there's maybe only 4 or 5 teams who are of a decent level. Everyone else is quite beatable. But in the Premier League, if you take anyone, if you sleep on anyone, they'll beat you. You know, if you don't work hard against anyone, they'll beat you. And I think some of the managers find that a bit of a shock. So I think Everton may shock him at the weekend. I really do think so.
In a city switch, so Everton travel to Manchester, and whilst they're out on the road, Liverpool are at home hosting another Manchester team, arguably the game of the weekend, if not the game of the weekend. Liverpool, Man City, which we'd all be going, oh, you can't call it. But now everyone's going, well, it's going to be Liverpool. Liverpool are going to give them a hide-in and this and that. But as my dad always teaches me, Giff, never, ever, ever say anything in football, because you just never know, do you?
Yes, and you can't bet against Pep. You know, the man's a genius. You know, he's going for a bad spell, and it's the worst spell he's ever had in his managerial career. You know, that shows that he's human, and we all go through that. But let's be real. I can't see Man City losing 7 games, 8 games, 9 games, 10 games on a row. So sooner or later, they're gonna get it right. You know, they're gonna get it right. And a big game like Liverpool, where it's a coin toss. If I'm honest, it's a real coin toss. I can't really say who's going to win the game. I want Man City to win it because I want the league to be close and I want it to be a good Premier League season. And I think if Liverpool beat them and especially if Arsenal don't win, I think then the league's almost gone. But I think that Man City should beat them. It'll bring it back down to 6 points, and it'll or 5
game
points,
on.
and it'll be game on again.
What's your thoughts on Slot? He's done a remarkable job. Has he inherited the basis of a good team, or has he put his own stamp on it for you? Where do you sit on that?
I was talking about this last night. Last night I was talking about the same thing, because he inherited a very good team, right? They were a very, very good team.
Yeah.
But the only difference I feel was that Jurgen, over the years, he had a stronghold on the team. So you had to play Jurgen's way, and he had a certain way he had to play, and it was very good. They were very successful. I think what Sloth's done, he's come in, and his mentality is similar to Jurgen, but he just released the shackles, and he's almost told the players, almost do what you want when we've got the ball. We want to play and enjoy yourself. So you've got players really enjoying themselves. You've got players who, Curtis Jones, who was in and out the team.
Reborn.
The team wasn't really shining. When he plays for England under 21s, he was amazing. But when he played for Liverpool, you think it's not the same player. All of a sudden, he's showing his potential. And I think this part, because the shackles are off him, and I think Slough just said to him, you're a good player, go and play, go and produce. If you're in the final third, show me that you can pass the ball. Show me you can shoot. Show me you can do all these weird and wonderful things that I see in training. And I think the players are really responding to it. And you're seeing a freer Liverpool. But the basis of the Liverpool team is just the same. They work hard. They fight for every single ball. They fight for every point. You got Gravisic, who's like a new player. Last year he was playing on the wing. He was playing number 10. He was playing number 8. Now he's found himself as a holding midfield player, and he's playing like a season pro. So there's a lot of little changes that Slough has made, but I think he did get the basis of a very, very good team. And all
they look quicker. They look quicker to make it.
Yes, yeah, they look sharp. They look sharp. Yeah, 100%.
With that in mind, what's the score prediction?
I'm saying 2-1 Man City. Yeah, I'm saying 2-1 Man City. Yeah. We may be looking at me next week and be laughing, saying I didn't get one result right.
No, I don't, because I'll
say 2-1 Man City.
I fancy City. I fancy City, and I think that it would be extremely. You make actually a really, really great point that they can't go on losing. So it's City and it's Pep. So I think this is the weekend. Special shout out to good friends of mine who will be watching. QPR fans. They've got Watford this weekend. Going well. Playing all right at the moment. The Hornets.
Watford are on a high. Yeah. They won Tuesday night. They drew Plymouth away on the weekend. They're doing very well at the moment. Clev's young manager, got Paul Robinson next to him, who's experienced. I think they've got a good managerial team there. They're doing well.
He's a good traditional footballer, Robbo, isn't he? I remember at Birmingham City when Lee Clark was his gaffer, and it was almost like having a second manager with someone like him. I mean, the ultimate pro, isn't he?
Robbo's a legend. I grew up with Robbo. We came through the ranks together at Watford, and he's a legend. He's a real football man. And I could imagine what he's bringing to the team, and I think just reminding the players about Watford. Watford, there was a certain values and certain things that you had to have as a Watford player back in the days, and I think Robbo will bring that back to let people know the values and what the fans expect and what people expect, the bare minimums.
Watch Robbo in training, and someone missed a penalty. He literally didn't speak to them for the rest of the training session.
I was surprised he didn't go 2 foot them.
Oh, quite incredible. The will to win. Listen, that rounds it up for us in our sort of pilot episode. We will come back and we'll scrutinise the scores and see how we did next weekend. So all that remains is to thank the legendary Gifton Noel Williams for today. We'll be back next week with another update and another fixture to pour over with a special guest as well. So all that remains is to say thank you, and whoever your team is this weekend, we wish you well.